Hey everyone, I hope you can hear me. Happy Tuesday. Um, Thank you for all joining us today for our September 2022 edition of What's New in Azure Data Factory. So we've got a lot of really exciting updates for you this month. So let's just jump right in. And as always, um, we do have a live chat. So if you have any questions at any time, please drop them there and I'll do my best to check and answer them. And if there's anything you'd like to see, please let us know as well. Oops, sorry. Sending a welcome chat to everyone. Welcome. Awesome. So let's get started. So as always, we do have our blog. So if you take a look, you have all of our updates right here. We recently posted the Azure Data Factory September 2022 monthly update. So if you click on this, you'll be able to see all the monthly updates that we do have. It links to our What's New page, which I will show you in a second. It also has when our live stream is, and an easy link so that you can jump right in. And all these really great updates that we have with links to the docs or the blogs. So if you don't have time to read through the full paragraph, you are able to go quickly to the documentation and read up on it on your own. So just kind of walking you through some of the updates that we have quite a few. In data flows, we do have a new Amazon S3 source connector added. We do have a Google Sheets REST-based connector added for source. That's in preview, keep that in mind. We added a new setting in data flows. It's called maximum column optimization. It lets you set the number of columns that you have, maximum columns that you have. We have the SAP change data capture capabilities and mapping data flow preview. That's really awesome. So we'll see a quick demo on that a little bit later. Writing a data to a lookup field with alternative keys is now supported in Dynamics 365, Dynamics CRM connectors for mapping data flows. So those are some really exciting updates that we have. In data movement, we are now supporting the ability to convert Oracle number types to a corresponding integer in the source connector. So that's something that's new. Check it out. In monitoring, we actually released a bundle of updates. So if you haven't seen this already, we have new sorting columns, consumption report improvement, loading improvements, pagination, and time zone setting updates. And so we'll walk through a few of them in our demo today as well. In monitoring as well, the Gantt chart view is now supported in integration runtime monitoring. That's something that is a little bit new, and you will be able to use that now. For orchestration, in your web activity, if you are using the delete method, it now supports sending a body, which an HTTP request. So you are able to pass along information in the body if it is required. And then for UI, we have native UI support for 6 additional linked service, not LinkedIn, added for 6 additional linked services. We have those listed down below. And we also do have our pipeline designer enhancement. So in the past couple of months, you might have seen in our studio preview experience, we've made a bunch of cool UI updates. We are actually bringing some of those from the preview experience into the default studio experience. So you won't have to turn on the settings to be able to use them. So I'll also walk through that and show you what we've got. So that's what we have for this month's update. As always, you can check out our What's New in ADF page. This hasn't been updated with our September information yet, but wanted to call a few things out. We are changing the way that we have formatted this, so if you like it, please let us know. If there's something that you feel like we should be adding, also let us know. We love to hear your feedback. And we are only keeping the most recent few months. If you want to see our previous months, you can read our What's New archived months. So we've moved them into a different section so that you can read our previous updates as well. So we're only going to keep a certain amount of months in our recent months, and everything else you'll find in the archived months page. And of course, if you ever see this pop up, please give us your feedback. Awesome. And something else that I want to bring to your attention is that Microsoft Ignite is this week. It starts tomorrow. So if you haven't registered already, please click register now. We have a lot of really exciting announcements that are going to be announced in the next coming days. You definitely want to be there for it, and you definitely want to hear from our keynotes and hear about all the latest innovations that Microsoft has. So if you haven't already, register now. Keep those dates blocked on your calendar. It is tomorrow through Friday, so very quick turnaround, but definitely worth going to. Awesome. So before we go into some of our live demos, I wanted to show you a few of our documentation updates that I think will be really helpful to you. So one thing that we have updated is our Azure Data Factory Quickstart. So if you're new to Azure Data Factory, or you just want to get started with Azure Data Factory very quickly, we do have something new. So if you go to our documentation page, you might see Quickstart, or on the side, you can click Get Started with Azure Data Factory. I'm going to take you to that page. And we've actually revamped our Quickstart page. Woo! So, to get started, you do have to have an Azure subscription, but it's super easy to create a free account. So you'll have to do that before you can get started. But we do have a new Quick Start video that'll just walk you through exactly what you have to do to get started. But it is so easy. All you really have to do is click Try It Now. And we will set up everything for you. So you click your subscription, and everything is taken care of for you. So all the resources that you have, or all the resources that you need. So it'll automatically create a data factory for you, a blob source, blob sync, and a pipeline. And all you have to do is choose your resource group or create something new. Double check on your region, choose a region if you don't want to use what is pre-set up for you already. And then you just have to click review and create. And it's so simple. So let's see. I'll do Noel Learn, and I'll review and create. It'll do a quick validation. It'll create. It might take a little bit of time to deploy, but we'll give it some time, and then I'll show you what the data factory is. And it really just allows you to, not have to spend so much time in the portal, but really get started quickly. Once everything is set up, you do have a pipeline in there, so you can already start to play around with different sources and syncs. We have storage with a sample file in there, so you can practice copying data from one place to another, or one folder to another in your blob storage. And you could also play around with mapping data flows. And if you are having trouble at all, definitely follow along with this quick start tutorial. As you see, I walk you through the entire thing. Anyway, it's super awesome, super great. So if you are new or you want to try it out, or if you are an existing user and you still want to try it out, would highly recommend you do that. And of course, if you have any feedback, let us know. But we hope that this lets you get down and let you start playing with Azure Data Factory really quickly. Something else that is kind of new is that we have heard that pricing is a little bit confusing for Azure Data Factory. So there are some new documents that should help with this. So again, if you go back to our Azure Data Factory documentation, you'll see in our reference section, we've got pricing, Pricing will take you to data pipeline pricing, has some calculators that you can play with, some explanations. But we also do have a new page called Understanding Pricing Through Examples. So if you click on that, it'll take you to this page. And it'll kind of walk you through different through our pricing model with really detailed examples. Of course, you can still use our pricing calculator, but we do have hypothetical situations that we can walk you through. So, for example, let's say you want to copy and transform data with dynamic parameters. So in this, it'll tell you like how everything is configured and set up, and it'll start to give you all these cost estimations. So this should be really helpful for you. It'll also show you what the example will look like in the pricing calculator, and that will kind of set the basis for whatever else you would like to learn about it. So definitely check this out. Hopefully this gives you a better idea of what the costs are. And if you do like this, do you like the examples or you would like to see other examples, please let us know in the feedback. We can definitely see if we can add some more, or if you feel like this is really helpful, of course, then share it out with everyone. That is the goal here. Does anyone have any questions or, any questions? All of these links I will be posting in the description of the video after the live stream is over. So you'll have a super easy access to that once this is finished recording. All right, cool. Then with that, let us go and do some demos. Oops. So what I was going to show you are some of our monitoring updates. So I've been running a bunch of pipelines so that you can see different things in the monitoring tab. So let's go to the monitoring tab. So as you can see, I've got a bunch of pipeline runs. So something that's new is that we do have new sorting columns. So as you can see here, we've got these little buttons for you to sort. So you can sort by your pipeline name. You can now sort by run start, run end, status. And so some of these are new. So in the past, it was mainly by run start, but now you can sort by all these other columns as well. Something else to note is that your time zone setting, so here, if you wanted to set a different time zone, let's say I want to be in Pacific time. I'll press OK. And this should be saved now in your browser cache. So it's not something that you would need to continually update every time you come back into your monitoring, into the monitoring page. Cool. Something else is that's really cool. You might not be able to see this, but this is a small activity, but we do have a loading icon that will show up here. So your consumption report won't even show up until it is completely calculated. So that way, you know that what you see is the final details. Awesome. Now, if I go into here, let's see. My pipeline doesn't have that many activities, but if you do have lots of activities and you want to see all items that have run, we do now show all of those activities. Right now I only have 21, but if you have more than that, we do have pages and it'll show up top here. And you click through each of the pages to see all your activities. Cool. And so those are some of the updates that we have for monitoring. Hopefully these are something that helps you when you are reviewing your pipeline runs. And if there's something that you feel is missing, let us know. Of course, we love your feedback. We love to hear from you. So if there's more that you'd like to see from monitoring, please let us know. Awesome. So then what I did want to show you is what we've moved from our preview experience into our default pipeline experience. So as you can see here in our settings, my studio update preview experience is off. So what you're seeing is in the default setting. So something that you might see is new is that we do have these handy new prompts now, which will kind of show you what is new. So when you want to add a new activity, you don't have to go to the activities on the left-hand side and drag and drop. You can actually just click add activity. And this will bring up this lovely list of all the activities that you can do. And you can choose whichever one you want, or you can search for what you're looking for and you can add it directly to your canvas. So let's do something simple, data flow, and it automatically connects. Something else that we've added are these port icons on the side. So this will allow you to easily connect your activity. So for example, if I am adding an activity, I decide that I don't want it to be on success, I can easily do it on skip, on fail, or on completion. So then I can easily drag and drop this connecting line, and now this next activity is not going to run until this one fails. So that's something new. It makes it a little bit more obvious what the ports are. So that should definitely help. And something else that is really cool are container activities. So for our iteration and conditionals, you can see we do have these handy tooltips. We have nested activities now. So let me drag and drop these ones in. That way you can see them. Cool. So I've got these awesome conditionals and containerized activities. And you can go ahead and add your activity straight into it, and you should be able to see it. So this makes it super easy for you to do. You can even configure the activity on this main screen. So when I click copy data 1, now I can fill out my source and my sink and the mapping that I'd like. So that's super easy. There is a limit, so you can only add 4. You can only see 4 before you're gonna have to go into the actual container to see it. So it's super easy. Just click configuration and you're right in it. And you can add more, or you can update and delete, and then just follow the breadcrumb back. And something that might be helpful, sometimes this might be a little bit too clunky and now you can't see all your other activities. On the right-hand side on our canvas, we have all these super handy tools. So I don't know if you know about these, but we added a new one, which is to hide nested activities by default. So if you click this, it shrinks your containerized activities. And it should do it for every single one on your canvas. So I zoomed out so you can see all 3 of my container activities. They're all minimized. And if you wanted to make all of them shown again, you just click this and all of them pop out. If you wanted to do them one-on-one, you can click the corner and maximize or minimize them. But this is really handy to be able to do all of them in one go. So those are some of our pipeline updates. And another big one that I'd like to show you a little bit more about. Oh, incredible. Glad to see that you've already tested these UI updates. Glad to see that they're helping. Awesome. But the last thing I did want to show you is a quick demo from our teammate Ulrich. We do have the preview for the SAP mapping data flow connector, SAP CDC, so change data capture. So I am going to share with you a quick demo on how that works from our teammate Ulrich. So give me 1 second to pull that up. I'm going to have to stop and start sharing. So I'm gonna put this back on and give me 1 second to reshare. Yeah, again, like if you guys have any questions, please let me know in the chat. Cool. Let me see.
So here you see a pipeline calling a mapping data flow. That's basically how the setup works, right? We have this data flow activity here, and there's one piece of configuration which you have to make for this, of course. Generally, when you want to orchestrate a data flow, of course, you have to specify which data flow to run. You have to specify the Azure integration runtime on which this is supposed to be executed. And specifically for this scenario, you also need to add a staging configuration. So you basically need to specify a linked service and a staging folder where we basically land the data as it comes from SAP. So we're first reading the data from SAP, putting it into a staging folder, and from there, the mapping data flow, which we have configured here, will pick it up and process it and write it to the target. So next, let's look into the details of that mapping data flow. And you see it's quite a simple structure. We start with a source where we basically specify the details of the object within the SAP system we want to read the data from. Then I have added, just to exemplify where you would put your individual logic, one step which adds a derived column to this to the data coming from the SAP side, and the last step is that you're updating the data into a sync. So let's look at the source configuration here. That's pretty straightforward and quite simple. So what I'm basically using is an inline dataset. You can of course also use predefined datasets, but mapping data flows also allow you to do this inline without having to predefine datasets. And on the source settings side, you basically specify the type of the inline dataset, so that's SAP CDC, and you specify the linked service which you want to use. On the source options tab, you actually specify the details of the extraction process. So you specify the object which you want to extract data from. So in this case, we're going to use an ABAP CDS view. And the specific name of the ABAP CDS view in this case looks a bit cryptic, but it's actually one of the CDS views delivered by SAP. It's actually the one which SAP provides for extracting sales order data. So it does a join of sales order headers and sales order items and delivers that data or provides that data for external consumers. The third option we have is the run mode. The run mode basically has currently two different options. So there's the first one is full on the first run, then incremental. That's the standard way the Delta process with ODT works. So when you when you run your pipeline for the first time, you will get a full snapshot. Subsequent runs will only get the incremental changes or the delta since the first run. The second option is full on every run. That's basically, as the name says, not a delta process, but you basically get a full snapshot for every run of your pipeline. And the third option, which is currently still grayed out, will basically be similar to the first one. It will start an incremental or a delta process, a CDC process, but it will skip the initial run on the first run. So it will only deliver or only read the changes and not do the initial snapshot. That's relevant in scenarios where you basically already have the data acquired, this full snapshot acquired maybe with other mechanisms, or where you're migrating the data from one system to the other or from one table to the other. So you might already have that data somehow, and it might be like smarter to avoid the potentially large initial run in such a scenario and take the data from the existing sync which you already have. In the case of full or first run, then incremental, so if you do a CDC process, it's also important to specify the key columns. ADF retrieves them automatically for you, right? So it basically calls into the SAP system to retrieve the key definition of the source object. And basically here we see that this view which we're using has two key columns, which is sales document item, sales document and sales document item. And that's actually all that's required on the source transformation, at least for a simple scenario. So let's move on to the second transformation step, which I included. That's a derived column. So I'm adding a column called load time, which I'm filling with a parameter I have included in that pipeline. Here you see that parameter p load time, which basically, at least by default, takes the current UTC time and adds it as an attribute to the data set, which is retrieved from the SAP side. So that's also a pretty straightforward step, just exemplifying how you would integrate your own logic into this whole framework. So basically, after the source transformation, you can apply your own logic, and the last step would typically be to sync the data into the target. Now let's look at the specifications you have to do here. It's also not much. You need to specify the details of the target. So again, I'm using an inline data set here. I'm using a delta table in Azure Data Lake. And on the next tab in the settings, I'm basically specifying the exact folder path into which I want to write the data. And now that's the interesting part about the CDC process here. We can not only do inserts, right? We don't just dump the data, the raw data as we get it, but we can actually convert this into inserts, deletes, upserts, and updates on the sync. And as I said, ADF does this automatically. The source basically transforms these, interprets the metadata which comes with each record, the change mode and the entity counter, into internal row markers, which basically mark a row as insert, update, delete, upsert. And basically, with this, we can use the sync mechanism to apply the appropriate changes into the data target. For this, you also need to specify the key columns, and I did this here in the expression using the two key columns, which we saw earlier. I already ran this pipeline once to do the initial load, and I would like to check with you what we see on the target side now. So I have prepared two SQL queries. The first one basically does a select count star, so it just gives us the number of rows which we have in the sync now. The second one is a bit more tricky. It also does a select count star, but it only filters for those records which have been updated in the last 10 minutes. So where this load time, that's the calculated, the derived column which we're adding in our pipeline, basically has a value which is less than 10 minutes ago. And we should not see any records there because I ran the initial load quite some time ago. So let's run these two statements and check for that. We should see something like close to 6,500 records in the table in total, and a 0 for the second query. So let's check that. So query 1, which is the second query, really results in a 0. Query 0, which is this one up here, basically gives us close to 6,500 records. Now let's move on to the SAP side, create a new sales order, update an existing one, then run the pipeline again and see how the results are reflected on the sync side. So let's move over to SAP and create a new sales order based on the existing reference sales order, which I'm using here. Maybe let's adjust the quantity here. Process on the SAP side, I think we have to enter customer reference, then save, should be fine. And you see that sales order 4655 has been saved. So we created one sales order now. Next thing I wanted to do was to update an existing one. Maybe let's use this one to update. Let's say, okay, we increase the quantity here, double it. Again, go to the process here. Everything looks good, I think. And we have successfully updated that sales order. So now going back to ADF and executing this pipeline again, we would hope to see that these two changes are reflected on the sync side. Pipeline starts running. And while the pipeline is running, let's move on to the Synapse side and check for the changes we see on the target. So by now the pipeline should actually have finished. And with this query, I'm basically selecting all the records, all the rows in the sync, which has been updated within the last 10 minutes. So we would expect to see the two records which we have just created and updated. And let's verify this. And as you can see, we see the sales order 4655, which we have just created, and also the sales order 4654, which we have just updated. So let's shortly summarize what you should take away from this demo. Basically, what you've seen is how simple it is to use mapping data flows with the SAP CDC connector to process change data from an SAP source. Right? So most of the magic happens in the source transformation. This takes care of reading the right data from the SAP side, doing the deduplication, taking care of the order of things, interpreting the change mode as it comes in the technical fields, ODQ change mode and ODQ entity counter correctly, and basically transforming this into ADF internal row markers. And then basically you can define your own logic in subsequent transformations and apply the data to any sync that you would like to have. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Moen.
Cool. So that was an awesome demo from our teammate Ulrich on how the SAP CDC connector and mapping data flow works. Super awesome. So if you have the chance, or if you do want to test it out, you should be able to. Then that being said, we are coming to an end of our live stream. If you found this video to be helpful, please like and subscribe. We do want to continue to make tutorials that are helpful for you. So if there are any scenarios or anything that you'd like to see, please let us know in the chat. If you are new to ADF and there are things that you're confused about, let us know. Maybe we can make some new videos that explain that better. If you are an existing ADF user and there are specific scenarios that you'd love to see, we're also open to creating some new tutorials for that. So just let us know. Cool. And if you have any questions at any point, again, please comment on our videos or reach out to us through social media. We'll do our best to answer your questions. And of course, we do have a Stack Overflow that we do try to check as well. Awesome. Thank you all for joining today. Again, we are so glad that you can make these calls, and we will see you next month. Bye.